Chapter 380. Looking at the tall and strong Piao Yuan, who had a fierce face, running to the ring, Lu Qing focused his mind and began to think about how to fight this round. Although he was close to his limit because of his mistake, he would not make a perfunctory effort in the following battle. This was a team competition, and the one who had the last laugh was the real winner. Lu Qing's brother-in-law was much stronger than Piao Yuan, but Ku was much weaker than sister Jingjing. Overall, it was hard to predict who would win, so Lu Qing had to weaken his opponent as much as possible. What a pity. Everyone knows that my strength is not limitless. Otherwise, I could use this to trick Piao Yuan and see if I could win. Piao Yuan was a little nervous when he stood in the predetermined position. He knew that Lu Qing was almost at his limit after defeating senior brother-in, but he dared not underestimate Lu Qing, a top 6th pin fierce man, even if he couldn't make a dance stage outburst. A dying beast was the most dangerous kind of existence, and the phrase, the last burst of the setting sun, was not only used to describe the situation before one's death. Piao Yuan was impulsive and often had conflicts with others. He had been punished since he was in elementary school, so he was a bad guy, in the eyes of his classmates and neighbors. However, he had never been sent to the police station. Didn't that mean something was wrong? Yes, my height, appearance, and ferocious temperament are all there, so the other side usually doesn't dare to fight back. However, it also proves that I have a good sense of propriety and won't lose control of myself due to anger. I'm also a meticulous person, who is rough on the outside but meticulous on the inside. To deal with Lu Qing in his current state, Piao Yuan had to be steady. He couldn't risk his life with Lu Qing. With these thoughts in mind, Piao Yuan spread his feet apart and got into a stance. The referee took a deep breath and decided to switch places with the supervisor after this round. He raised his right hand and waved it down. His voice was unusually loud. Start. With Lu Qing's words still ringing in his ears, Piao Yuan didn't bother to see what Lu Qing was going to do. Instead, he swayed his legs and ran like a brown bear to a dozen meters away from his right side at an extremely fast speed. No matter what, it was always a good idea to dodge first. He couldn't give Lu Qing any chance to use the attainment formula to accelerate. Senior brother and had been careless at the beginning, and that was why he was in a passive position. Lu Qing was speechless and almost burst out laughing. He decided to stay still and even half closed his eyes as if to say, "Go ahead, I'll admit defeat if you follow me one step further." It seemed that he wanted to seize the time to regulate his qi circulation in order to recover to a greater extent. Seeing this, Piao Yuan felt a headache coming on. He didn't dare to give his opponent such a chance, so he forced himself to change direction. Thump, thump. He seemed to have grown a pair of elephant legs. He took strong and light strides, carrying his tall and heavy body, and rushed towards Lu Qing at lightning speed. Elephant form, wild elephant charge. Elephants were quite clumsy, but their charging speed was not slow at all. In fact, they were very fast. Thump, thump, thump. The arena was shaking slightly under Piao Yuan's feet. Just as he was about to reach Lu Qing's side, he suddenly shifted his center of gravity. Like a nimble antelope, he drew a beautiful arc and flashed to the back of his opponent. Following that, he stretched his body and transformed into a giant bear, fiercely leaning forward. Bear form, giant bear hits the tree. When Piao Yuan, who was close to professional 7th pin, used this move, he could even break an iron bar, let alone a tree. However, the moment he used his strength to hit the tree, Lu Qing, who had been motionless all this time, suddenly lifted his foot and jumped forward a little, as if he was performing a coordination that he had practiced thousands of times. He didn't have eyes behind his head, but he had an ice mirror in his heart. Bam! Piao Yuan hit the air and exploded the airflow. He knew that he was in trouble, so he immediately retracted his qi and blood and used force concentration. Lu Qing took advantage of the force to turn around and pounce on his opponent in the opposite direction. He tightened his right arm and shook it out. In his mind, he visualized a frozen river, condensed kinetic energy and vibrating thunderclouds. Simplified physical invulnerability, severe warning. The reason why Lu Qing chose this move instead of internal explosion was that he was still looking for victory, not just to weaken his opponent. When his power of blaze and power of frost were both exhausted, the power of his simplified physical invulnerability, severe warning, and internal explosion would be greatly reduced. Therefore, the latter could only cause internal vibration and turbulence, which would hurt Piao Yuan to a certain extent, but would not cause him to lose most of his combat strength. As for the former, although the freezing effect on the spirit and thinking would be weakened, the stiffness and sluggishness would still appear. Even if it was only for a short time, it was enough for him to seize the opportunity in close combat. Bam! Lu Cheng's right fist chopped down, and the crisp sound like the evening drum and morning bell echoed around the arena. At this moment, Piao Yuan's condensed qi, blood, spirit, and strength burst out and expanded his body. However, he didn't punch back or kick back as he would normally do. Instead, he stepped back cautiously, cracked the black bricks under his feet and retreated quickly. No matter what, it was better to stay away from Lu Cheng. Bam. Lu Cheng was both annoyed and amused that Piao Yuan missed his target. It was said that Piao Yuan had a lot of bad records and was very good at bullying others. Why was he so timid and cautious? Lu Cheng didn't feel frustrated. He immediately gathered his force and released it from the soles of his feet. Crack. The ground cracked and he jumped up. In a flash he was in front of Piao Yuan. He stretched out his hands and shook his elbows and wrists, covering 7 parts of his opponent's body. The 13th move of the ice sect, Snow Cover. This time, without the help of his supernatural ability, he could only rely on the fluctuation of frost force to reduce the surrounding temperature and create a thin white fog. Piao Yuan didn't have time to dodge in the snow and fog. According to what he had thought of in the video clips, he tightened his thighs, straightened his knees, and kicked out first to make Lu Cheng fall into his trap. At the same time, he shook his elbows and raised his hands to protect his vital parts, making a gesture of letting Lu Cheng hit him. Lu Cheng saw all of this clearly in his ice mirror. He calmly moved his left foot back, making Piao Yuan's kick hit nothing but air. As he moved his left foot back, his body leaned forward and forced the trajectory of his hands to change. He dodged Piao Yuan's block and hit Piao Yuan's shoulders. The snow cover move was both fake and real, and so was the movement of his hands. Piao Yuan was shocked. Seeing that his shoulders were about to be hit, he stamped his feet on the ground to make his body squat down quickly. Although Lu Cheng's double hammers touched Piao Yuan, he couldn't exert any force. Bam! Bam! Lu Cheng exerted force on his joints, stretched his fascia, and pressed his 10 fingers on Piao Yuan's shoulders. He took advantage of the force and turned over in the air. Piao Yuan was so scared that he thought of Xianxia's failed move. He hurriedly withdrew his qi and blood, exploded his Dan force and spurted it forward to avoid Lu Cheng's attack. At this moment, Lu Cheng suddenly grabbed Piao Yuan's shoulders with all his strength. While in midair, Lu Cheng exerted strength in his waist and abdomen. His muscles bulged and he threw Piao Yuan into the air with the momentum of his body's forward somersault. Beautiful! Qin Sanxing in the live broadcast room applauded. This fight could be written into textbooks or secret manuals. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Xianxia opened her mouth slightly. She was both stunned and happy. After throwing Piao Yuan into the air, Lu Cheng landed on the ground and calmly visualized a hot and heavy big red sundae. This time he knew that he was close to his limit, so he didn't use the severe warning. Instead he used the internal explosion to kill Piao Yuan. Let's see how you dodge this time. Although Piao Yuan adjusted his posture in the air, he couldn't stop himself from falling because he didn't have the supernatural ability to fly. His body contracted and expanded, and together with the explosion of his Dan stage, he turned into a meteorite and hit Lu Cheng. The scorching waves condensed into a ball. The big red sun turned into Zhurong, who had the body of a beast and the head of a human. Lu Cheng didn't dodge. He lowered his back and clenched his fist to hit Zhurong. Bam! Soaring cannon. Bam! Piao Yuan's fist collided with Lu Cheng's internal explosion punch. Boom! The qi and strength in Piao Yuan's body exploded, shaking all his internal organs and making his eyes bloodshot. Thump! Thump! Lu Cheng, who was close to his limit, was pressured by the explosion of his Dan stage. He immediately stepped back in case his legs were fractured. Thump! Piao Yuan, who was hit by the internal explosion, couldn't stabilize himself and almost fell. However, he quickly used force concentration to neutralize most of the effect and maintain his center of gravity. Then he bounced up and shot a dozen or so meters away. Yes, he was a dozen or so meters away from Lu Cheng. This guy looks fierce, but why is he such a coward? How can he be so slippery? Lu Cheng, who had planned to bully Piao Yuan, couldn't help but shake his head. Seeing that he couldn't even maintain the ice mirror, he simply raised his right hand to indicate that he gave up. Seeing his casual attitude, the referee almost didn't realize it. After 2 seconds he raised his arm and announced, "Round 2, Piao Yuan wins." At this moment, Piao Yuan was inexplicably moved. He didn't know if he would lose if Lu Cheng continued to hold on. In the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Lin Kei jumped up. He had already taken off his coat and put away the towel. "I've been waiting for this for a long time." Chapter 381. Watching Lu Qing walk down the arena, Qin Sanxing couldn't help but sigh. What a pity, Sanxing, what's a pity? Lu Chang asked cooperatively. Qin Sanxing sighed. Lu Qing was so close to defeating Piao Yuan. I can't believe he was able to do that when he was close to his limit. Seeing Lu Chang at a loss, Qin Sanxing explained, if Lu Qing had used the move that could freeze Piao Yuan's mind and spirit instead of his newly learned simplified physical invulnerability moves, Piao Yuan would have been like a trembling lamb in the air, waiting to be slaughtered. That's right. Why didn't Lu Qing use that move? Did he make a mistake again? Lu Chang tapped the table lightly. No, it's because he was at his limit and couldn't continue. That's what I pity. If he could have used force concentration one more time, Piao Yuan would have lost. But it also proved that En Chaoyang was not easy to deal with. He had to fight until his last breath to defeat En Chaoyang. Qin Sanxing answered Lu Chang's question. Look, Lu Qing was forced to step back by Piao Yuan's dance stage explosion. If he had used the simplified physical invulnerability move of the Ice Sect and couldn't use force concentration, he wouldn't have been able to seize the opportunity when Piao Yuan was frozen. It would have been better for him to use his new simplified physical invulnerability move to injure Piao Yuan so that Lin Ke could finish him. I see. Lu Chang suddenly understood. What's more, if he hadn't reached his limit, Lu Qing wouldn't have been forced to step back by a top 8th pin dance stage explosion. That's right. In that state he has to release the force. Otherwise, his bones and joints will be damaged. Qin Sanxing looked at the screen and saw Lin Ke walking quickly to Lu Qing. Seizing the last moment, Lu Chang asked in confusion. When Lu Qing grabbed Piao Yuan's shoulder and threw him into the air, why didn't he hold on for a while longer? Why didn't he just throw him to the ground and make him dizzy? Wouldn't he have won if he had done that? Why did he give Piao Yuan a chance to fight head-on when he had already grabbed Piao Yuan? As a host who had participated in many live broadcasts of martial arts competitions, even if he didn't know much about martial arts in the past, he could be considered half an expert now. If he could, do you think he wouldn't want to? Lu Qing took advantage of the situation to grab Piao Yuan. Since he couldn't control Piao Yuan's joints and couldn't infuse much force into Piao Yuan's body, Piao Yuan would have been able to counterattack. A force concentration would have been enough to solve Lu Qing's predicament, and Lu Qing could have seized the opportunity to attack Piao Yuan. Therefore, Lu Qing threw Piao Yuan into the air as fast as he could. Qin Sanxing was like a drunkard who had just gotten a bottle of aged wine. He was savoring the lightning-fast fight and the various considerations behind it. Lu Chang nodded slightly. Phew, the response of an expert is really full of knowledge. Alright, let's turn our eyes back to the arena and enjoy the next match. In Lu Qing's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall Yan Xiaoling posted, QAQ, that commentator uncle is really a good person. I can even understand the specific changes of the battle. That's why I'm sad. If only my idol had more stamina, sob sob sob. Brahman replied with a crying emoji. Flying Steed in Space, who had just joined the forum, said with a funny face, it's both you and us who are not good enough. If we could all work together and give Lu Qing a little stamina each, things would be much easier. Okamoto's fan immediately changed the topic to something dirty. That's not right. What if there is a 3-second guy in the jar? Every second is so important. Since the match was not over yet, the audience didn't celebrate or rejoice. They quickly turned their attention back to the live broadcast. Only Yan Xiaoling tagged Unparalleled Dragon King, nervously. Do you think Songqing University can win this match? Our Lu Qing has already reached this level. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a funny face emoji, it's hard to say. Wahai is not a pushover. Piao Yuan is said to be close to 7th pin and can make 5 consecutive bursts. However, he failed in the ranking event because he didn't practice force concentration and didn't have the top inheritance. In short, although he used 3 force concentrations, they were not consecutive bursts, so he didn't consume too much energy. However, he suffered a simplified physical invulnerability attack from Lu Qing, so he must have suffered some internal injuries. He probably only has 70% of his peak state left, or maybe even less. It's not difficult for Lin Ke to beat him. The difficult part is controlling the consumption of energy. Xing Jingjing has a strong illusion supernatural ability. When Xing Jingjing participated in the youth tournament of Xing province at the end of July last year, she was praised as having the strength of an 8th pin fighter. Now 8 or 9 months have passed. Although she hasn't entered the dance stage yet, I'm sure she has made some progress, especially in the area of illusion supernatural ability. Without a strong opponent, it's hard for outsiders to judge her specific level. Therefore, even if Lin Ke can't defeat 2 opponents at once, He has to exhaust Xing Jingjing to the same level as Lu Qing just did. Otherwise, illusions are still very powerful to defeat opponents of the same level. Xianxia, a professional 9th pin fighter, won't be able to deal with it effectively unless she has learned a unique skill like Ice Mirror. However, Lu Qing, the so-called God's favored one, also entered the dance stage several months ago. Brahmin had been silently watching Unparalleled Dragon King's analysis. At this time, she pulled her braid and sent an emoji of Pegasus Meteor Punch. I thought there was no problem, but now you're making me nervous again. Yeah, I'm trembling in fear. Yan Xiaoling sent an emoji of You Are Dead. Pitter-patter. As Lu Qing walked down the ring, his sweat kept dripping and falling on the ground. The Jindan could replenish his strength and soothe his fatigue, but it couldn't prevent him from generating heat when he was exerting force. This was one of the foundations of punching force. Therefore, Lu Qing believed that the Jindan's replenishment was not unlimited. At least it couldn't create water out of thin air. Once there was a serious lack of water, even the strongest martial artist would be dispirited. As soon as he stepped onto the stone steps and took a few steps forward, he saw Lin Ke walking towards him at a leisurely pace. Lu Qing smiled and stretched out his right hand. He wanted to say, I'll leave the rest to you. However, considering that his brother-in-law was used to piling pressure in his heart and was not good at relieving pressure, he changed his words and said in a low voice, Good luck. Clap. Lin Ke high-fived him and nodded slightly. There was an invisible flame burning in his deep and indifferent eyes. The two brushed past each other. Lu Qing saw Xianxia, who was wearing a white dress and holding a towel, happily greeting him. Instinctively, he quickened his pace and walked back. Wipe off your sweat. Xianxia handed the towel to her boyfriend. She smelled the familiar scent of sweat and felt a little dizzy and comfortable. She shook her head slightly and smiled with bright eyes. I knew you could beat in Chaoyang, but I didn't expect you could push Piao Yuan to the brink of defeat after beating him. She felt a little sorry that her boyfriend had reached his limit and couldn't seize the opportunity to win one by one. However, this was not the time to mention it. Coach Yen was not stingy with her compliments. If that bald guy wasn't so cowardly and slippery, I could have beaten him. Lu Qing wiped the sweat on his head and face with the towel and walked back to the seats with the girls side by side. He was in a good mood. At this time, Kai Zongming came up to them and raised his eyebrows. Qing, did you learn the skill of Dragon Ball when you hit the ground with the fireball? Lu Qing squinted at him and showed a smile. It's a secret. A secret? Kai Zongming was stunned. For a moment he thought he was facing Lin Quebec. Damn it. Qing was influenced by Lin Ke's dry humor. He was influenced by Lin Ke's cold humor. While he was still a little dumbfounded, he saw Lu Qing and Xianxia sitting side by side. Xianxia lowered her voice and asked, Qing, did you really get the inspiration from Dragon Ball? Lu Qing chuckled and answered without hiding anything, yes. Oh, I take back my words. I've never seen such a person who values girls over friends. I Kai Zongming am not convinced. Kai Zongming covered his face and sighed. Lu Qing finished wiping his sweat and put down the towel. Suddenly, he saw Xianxia take out a bottle of liquid the size of calcium milk from the bag at her feet. The bottle was transparent and rippled. This is for you. Xianxia pretended to hand the bottle to her boyfriend casually. Lu Qing glanced at it and didn't see a label. He was confused. What is it? Sedative and brain-invigorating liquid. I thought you used to use a lot of energy but not your physical strength, right? Well, it's an ancestral product of the Ji family. My mom's company has improved it recently. It's suitable for you. Xianxia whispered in Lu Qing's ear. You're ready? Lu Qing blurted out in surprise. Of course. I'm not a rough guy. I'm always reliable. Xianxia raised her chin and glanced at Lu Qing. Lu Qing beamed with joy. He felt more satisfied than when he defeated in Chaoyang. He was about to praise Coach Yen in a low voice when he heard his master talking on the phone. Haha, my silly disciple is not stupid when it comes to fighting. Geezer sure was holding the phone and laughing. You are still too disciplined to teach the 9 words formula to in Chaoyang. Don't be modest. If you really knew the 9 words formula, my silly disciple would have to fight with all his might to win. Is master showing off in front of the Queen of Thought? Show off. Lu Qing's mouth twitched. He pretended not to hear and leaned toward his little fairy, praising her reliability and effort. He slid his thumb and opened the bottle cap, letting the fragrance of the sedative and brain-invigorating liquid spread out. In the arena, Piao Yuan shivered when he saw Lin Ke's emotionless and cold face. He recalled the video of Lin Ke's opponent that he had watched before. He was also good at attacking at the beginning of the game. Furthermore, he had already mastered the attainment formula. So, I'd better dodge first. The referee looked around, raised his right hand and waved it down. Begin. The third round between Huahai and Songqing began. Chapter 382. Start. Just like in the previous round, Piao Yuan didn't bother to see what Lin Ke would do. Instead, he ran to the side like a wild bear. His body seemed to be swaying, but his speed was not slow. He was being a little cautious here. He was afraid that Lin Ke would learn from Lu Cheng's mistake and rush out to intercept him. Therefore, he adjusted the direction of his escape to a certain extent. In the previous round, I ran to the right. Would Lin Ke expect me to run to the left this time? Probably not. I can't run to the left. I can't take the risk. If I continue to run to the right, it will be troublesome. What if Lin Ke thinks deeper than me? If I run to the right, he can catch up with me with the attainment formula. I'd better run to the right, but it's safer to run to the right. Thump, thump, thump. Piao Yuan's footwork was heavy and light, combining the two contradictory feelings. He was like a wild elephant crossing a river. He was walking steadily, but he was floating because of the buoyancy. Every step he took was bounced up like a river. Piao Yuan used his elephant body movements to the fullest before he dared to see what Lin Ke was going to do. What he saw scared him so much that his heart almost jumped out of his throat. He saw that his opponent was half a beat slower and waited for him to make his choice before taking action. Using his back as a bow and his legs as a string, he threw himself at him like a crossbow. Along the way, he tore apart the airflow and set off a gust of wind, blowing up the dust and smaller stones on the ground, leaving a trail of smoke behind him. The meteor force could not only create internal and external shocks, but also increase one's speed. A horse galloping 1,000 miles was nothing compared to the meteor force. Piao Yuan quickly calmed down and changed his direction to avoid losing his momentum. He swung his elephant leg and ran in circles with Lin Quebec. He was already weaker than Lin Ke in the first place, and now he had suffered internal injuries from the fight with Lu Cheng. He had consumed a lot of energy, so it was almost impossible for him to win. Therefore, his goal was very clear, and that was to wear out Xing Jingjing. He would do whatever he could to create a situation where Xing Jingjing had a high chance of winning. As for the third contestant from Songqing University, the half-disabled Phantom Clam could also easily defeat her. Since he wanted to waste time, he would put down the burden of his image and run with Lin Quebec. When he couldn't dodge anymore, he would fight again. Thump, thump. Piao Yuan kept running and changing directions. His body was steady and his footwork was steady. Lin Ke, on the other hand, was using the meteor force to accelerate in a straight line and the combination of the mercurial balance and the yin-yang twist. He was gradually reducing his opponent's range of movement and shortening the distance between him and Piao Yuan. However, due to the vastness of the arena, Lin Ke was unable to find an opportunity to attack. As they ran, Piao Yuan glanced at Lin Ke, trying to find any sign of impatience on his face to confirm his strategy. However, he found that Lin Ke's eyes were deep and expressionless, just as he had been at the beginning of the game. Wasn't he anxious at all? Don't you want to take me down quickly so you can focus on dealing with Xing Jingjing? Piao Yuan was quite frustrated. He felt that his efforts were not effective, but he still kept moving cautiously, not making a head-on collision until the last moment. Thump, thump. The two figures were getting closer and closer. Seeing that Lin Ke was about to enter the range where he could not dodge the Xing formula, Piao Yuan took a deep breath and suddenly stopped. He exerted force with his knee and kicked a piece of brick on the ground. Whoosh! The piece of brick rubbed against the air at a high speed, making a sharp sound. It shot toward Lin Ke like a bolt from a crossbow. After the kick, Piao Yuan stepped on the ground and rebounded, following the arrow, pouncing on Lin Ke with a strong wind. During this process, he even gathered his strength and spurted out his Dan Qi, causing his body to swell as he stretched. He truly turned into a giant bear, a fierce and ferocious giant bear. Clang. Piao Yuan's foot landed on the ground and the arena shook slightly. He turned his body sideways and crashed into his opponent. Bear form giant bear hits the tree. The wind was fierce and the force was overflowing. Lin Ke was in a precarious situation with a piece of rock in front of him and a bear behind him. If he did not respond properly, he would be defeated by this terrible series of attacks. Crack. With a sharp sound that made people's scalps numb, Lin Ke stopped abruptly. The kinetic energy of running at a high speed was turned into the force of punches by the yin-yang twist. Lin Ke stretched out his left palm, and with a twist and turn of his left hand, he tamed the green brick fragments that were shooting towards him like lightning and stuck them to his palm. Its previous power and strength that could pierce through metal and stone were all sucked away by a sponge, leaving not a single trace behind. Lin Kei's muscles trembled and he rotated the yin-yang twist. His right arm swelled and swung quickly. He threw a meteor blast at the giant bear that was about to hit the tree. Boom. It was as if a bomb had been detonated in the air, and the air was boiling. The giant bear broke through the explosion zone in a terrifying manner and directly hit the opponent's fist. Bang. Both of them stopped at the same time, creating a circle of spider web under their feet. They were evenly matched. Whoosh. The air rushed up to Piao Yuan's face. He was so scared that he quickly closed his eyes, dropped his ears and covered his nostrils. At the same time he turned around and faced Lin Kei. His right arm, which had been accumulating power for a long time, turned into a whip and lashed out at Lin Kei's neck. He could be a coward when he should be, but he could also be ruthless when he should be. Lin Kei's body trembled again. Using the force of the collision, he swung his left fist mechanically. Soaring cannon. Bang. With a muffled sound, both of their fists paused in midair. After a moment, Lin Kei and Piao Yuan pulled back their arms. Both of them were shaking and Piao Yuan was about to fall backward. One was a 7th pin master while the other was born with brute force. Lin Kei had gained the upper hand with the yin-yang twist. Piao Yuan, who was experienced in fighting, immediately withdrew his qi and blood to stabilize his body. He concentrated his force and spirit on his lower abdomen. Lin Kei did not dodge. He withdrew and released his qi and blood to complete the eruption, faster and fiercer. Bang. Both of them swelled their thighs and pulled out their left feet at the same time. Bang. A gust of wind blew. Lin Kei used the rebounding force to withdraw his leg and concentrate his dantian again. Yin-yang twist, double explosion. Piao Yuan's teeth ached. At such a close distance, he had no choice but to concentrate his force and fight with brute force. Bang. Lin Kei pulled back his right arm and punched out fiercely. Bang. Piao Yuan, who was a little slower, punched down to defend himself. Bang. Fist against fist, a strong wind whistled, and the muscles of the two clearly showed signs of swelling. Lin Kei's expression did not change. He trembled his fascia and circulated his force to concentrate his qi, blood, spirit and internal and external influences on his lower abdomen again. Crack. He put his feet together and punched out with his left fist. Triple explosion. Piao Yuan did not know what to do. He followed Lin Kei's move and raised his arms. Bang. He was completely suppressed by Lin Kei's continuous force and was about to retreat. Piao Yuan, who knew he was in a disadvantageous position, took the initiative to concentrate his dantian and move forward instead of retreating. At the same time, Lin Kei gathered his qi and released it. He stomped on the ground and plowed the ground. Instead of attacking, he used the movement of the fighting sect, earth cracking. Quadruple explosion. Boom. It was as if a volcano had erupted deep inside the arena. The black bricks cracked and splashed upward, hitting the soles of Piao Yuan's feet. Piao Yuan, who had rushed forward with the momentum of the dance stage, lost his balance and staggered. After stomping on the ground, Lin Kei turned around and flashed to Piao Yuan's side. Seeing that Piao Yuan had lost his stance, Lin Kei withdrew his dantian qi and swung his arms fiercely. Iron Chain River. Quintuple explosion. He was indeed a genuine rank 7 martial artist. Seeing that he was in danger, Piao Yuan's heart skipped a beat. He had no time to think about anything else. He suddenly lowered his back and rushed out like a tired bird returning to its nest. He threw himself on the ground and rolled like a lazy donkey. Lin Kei would not let go of this opportunity. He straightened his knees and strode forward to catch up with Piao Yuan. After rolling for a while, Piao Yuan felt a strong wind coming at him. Imitating a scene that had left a deep impression on him, Piao Yuan grabbed the broken stones from the previous 2 rounds and threw them at Lin Quebec whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh. The broken stones shot toward Lin Kei's face in a destructive manner. Lin Kei stopped as soon as he said so. While his muscles were trembling, his right hand reached in front of his face and caught the gravel in his palm. The gravel was still spinning. Taking this opportunity, Piao Yuan did a carp jump and stood up. At this moment, Lin Kei swung his right hand backward to make the rolling stones fly back at him. Piao Yuan hurriedly lowered his body and dodged in a hurry. Sliding forward, Lin Kei approached Piao Yuan and used his fastest movement, the meteor force. He swung his arm quickly and hit Piao Yuan's chest and abdomen. Piao Yuan had no time to do anything but put his arms in front of him. Bang! He felt as if he had been hit by a cannon and was badly shaken, which triggered the remaining injuries in his body. With a buzzing sound in his head, Piao Yuan tasted rust in his throat. When he wanted to use force concentration to resolve the situation, He was delayed by half a beat due to the interference of his internal injury. Lin Ke punched him again, stopping his punch at his throat. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Round 3, Lin Ke wins." In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Xianxia smiled and glanced at her boyfriend. That scene just now was so familiar. Back then, didn't Qing escape from Wei Xingqian's pursuit and struggle back from the brink of failure by relying on the flying sand confusing eyes? She did not expect Piao Yuan to do the same thing today. Of course, the ending was completely different. Lu Qing laughed involuntarily. It's not the same, okay? After the flying sand shooting eyes, I didn't rush to turn over and stand up. Instead, I directly rolled to the front of Wei Xingtian and fought him in close combat. Then, I seized the opportunity to escape failure. What a coward. All he knows is to jump like a carp. Without the courage to fight, he can't turn the tables. This is called imitating others but making a fool of oneself. Chapter 383. Xianxia chuckled because of Lu Cheng's ridicule of Piao Yuan and the fact that her cousin had won and was about to face the last fighter of Huahai. After a few chuckles, she asked worriedly, "Did my brother fight too hastily just now?" No. Piao Yuan is a professional 8th pin fighter who is born with brute force and can make 5 consecutive bursts. If he's lucky enough, he can even get a professional 7th pin certificate. Once such an opponent thinks that he's a coward and will exhaust you, he's really slippery and hard to defeat. You see, he was willing to use the explosion of the dance stage to escape. What can't he do? Lu Qing took a sip of the sedative and brain-invigorating liquid and replied with a smile, "Since everyone is wary of your brother's combo, we have to attack Piao Yuan in one breath and not give him a chance to recover. Otherwise, if Piao Yuan escapes, we will have to go through another round of reincarnation, which will consume more energy." It was like the first time when Lu Qing challenged Wenqing School. Zhou Jingquan fought very conservatively and tried to win with the least cost so that he could save more energy to meet his future brother-in-law. What was the result? The more Zhou Jingquan fought like this, the more energy he would consume and be affected. Naturally, he couldn't achieve his goal. In a martial arts competition, you can't be overcautious. I understand, but I'm worried that my brother will consume too much energy. Xianxia wrinkled her pretty nose. Lu Qing shook the empty bottle and felt less nervous. He chuckled and said, "Your brother is now a normal professional 7th pin fighter who can make 6 or 7 consecutive bursts. He has also practiced the swordsman formula and collected so many methods to improve his physical strength. It's no problem for him to make 5 consecutive bursts. He can control his energy well." After he imparted the swordsman formula to Ku, she asked in embarrassment if her cousin could also learn it so that he could break through the limit of his physical strength as soon as possible and reach the real 7th pin level. His answer was self-evident. They were relatives and teammates who fought side by side. Since there was a reason, why not teach them? It was impossible for him to overthrow the rule of Shanbei in 2 years by himself. It would be good enough if he could beat Peng Liyun. It was precisely because he had practiced the swordsman formula that Lin Ke was able to advance from a quasi-7th pin to a normal 7th pin in just 2 months. "You're right. I forgot about that," Xianxia said with an expression that said, "I'm just worried. Bite me." Ah. Lu Qing chuckled. He wanted to reach out and rub Ku's head, but when he looked at her hair, he restrained himself. Round 3, Lin Ke wins. In the live broadcast room, Qin Sanqing smiled. Songqing University substitutes aren't as good as the Big Four, but their second leading general is strong. He's stronger than all the other team's second leading generals. The Big Four referred to Shanbei, the capital, Huahai, and Guangnan. The second leading generals were Fang Zhirong, Qin Digua, Piao Yuan, and Li Xiaoyuan. Among them, Piao Yuan was close to professional 7th pin, and Li Xiaoyuan was similar to him, but his fighting style was more flexible. After Fang Zhirong lost to Lin Ke, he was greatly stimulated and practiced hard. So far, he had shown the strength of a quasi-7th pin. Qin Digua was a senior, a veteran 7th pin expert without a top inheritance. We all know that the two prides are fighting against the world. Lu Chang made a joke and then changed the topic. Piao Yuan was hit by the meteor force in the end and was shocked, which caused his internal injury. That's why he was slower, right? Yes. Qin Sanqing answered briefly. Lu Chang was confused. Then why didn't Lin Ke use the meteor force at the beginning? Why did he have to use a burst of power? How could he have a chance at the beginning? Qin Sanqing smiled. Let's not talk about the limited number of times a professional 7th pin dance stage fighter can use his force, except for a few special forces. When Lu Qing hit Piao Yuan with his newly mastered simplified physical invulnerability move, he was already at the end of his rope. The power of his move was not much left, so the injury he caused was not too obvious. If he didn't waste Piao Yuan's dance stage explosion and force him into a panic state, he would have been able to neutralize the shock and suppress his internal injury in time with a force concentration. That's right. Others are neutralizing and fighting, but he's neutralizing and running. As a guest commentator, he couldn't help but ridicule Piao Yuan. Haha, I didn't expect the fierce and evil Piao Yuan to fight like this. The host, Lu Chang, almost restrained himself from saying the word, coward. He wasn't like this in many of his previous fights. That's because his opponents weren't as strong as him. When he bullies the weak, he's still fierce, evil, and aggressive. Qin Sanxing laughed. Let's put it this way. He's very resolute in carrying out his plan. While they were talking, Xing Jingjing stood up. And Chaoyang knew that she was afraid of physical contact with men, so he didn't give her a high five or a fist bump. Instead, he waved his arm and said, "Good luck." Xing Jingjing nodded slightly and walked quickly to the stone steps. On the way, she met Piao Yuan and saw him spitting to the side, which was mixed with blood. "Are you badly hurt?" Xing Jingjing kept a distance and asked subconsciously. No. Piao Yuan's facial muscles twitched. Lu Cheng's internal explosion, well, it should be internal explosion, and Lin Kei's meteor force. My teeth are bleeding because of the vibration. You better go. Don't give him any chance to breathe. Okay. Xing Jingjing walked around Piao Yuan and arrived in front of the stone steps. At this moment, on the live broadcast screen, her figure flashed and appeared in the ring. Teleportation? Lu Cheng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. No, it's just the full power of the illusion ability, Qin Sanxing said with great interest. Interesting. The distortion was much worse than what Xing Jingjing had used before. Lin Kei stood there quietly and watched his opponent finish her preparation. He breathed steadily and slowly. There was not much sweat on his forehead and body. At this moment, the game supervisor, who had switched places with the referee, stood in the center of the arena and raised his right hand. After a few seconds, when Lin Kei and Xing Jingjing finally looked at each other, the game supervisor suddenly waved his hand and said, "Start." As the sound waves reverberated in the air, Xing Jingjing kicked off with her long legs and pounced toward Lin Quebec. However, everyone knew that this was most likely just an illusion. However, they could not treat it seriously. What if the enemy took the illusion as real and deliberately didn't use her superpower? Lin Kei closed his eyes and counted silently for 2 seconds. Suddenly, he raised his arms and punched a dozen times in all directions with the stretch of his fascia and the swing of his joints. Bang, 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 bang. As if he had grown many arms, he attacked most of the places around him. Crisp sounds burst out one after another like beans being fried. The 113th move of the fighting sect, 8 Arms Divine Fist. This was the first move of the fighting sect, Stars Like Rain. The first 9 moves of the fighting sect were unique skills of physical invulnerability, with the 9th move being the most powerful. The later moves were derived from the dance stage Kung Fu, led by the 10th move, Doom of Death. Bang, bang. Less than a meter to Lin Kei's left, the tall girl reappeared. She raised her right hand in front of her and blocked Lin Kei's attack. After confirming Xing Jingjing's real position, Lin Kei pressed his right hand on his abdomen, swung his waist and exerted strength under his feet. He turned sideways and slammed into her like a meteor crashing into the ground. The 35th move of the fighting sect, Meteorite Fall. Lin Kei's collision stirred up a strong gust of wind, causing the air to shake. However, Xing Jingjing's figure, who he collided with, once again shattered into pieces, disappearing like a mirage. At this moment, Lin Kei's hair stood on end. His right hand on his abdomen quickly moved down, half grabbing and half blocking. He had just finished a fight with Xing Jingjing and confirmed that she was here. But in such a short time, it was impossible for her to make an effective dodge. After eliminating all the impossibilities, there was only one possibility left. Bang! A fair and delicate fist appeared out of thin air, swinging towards Lin Kei's genitals and smashing into his right palm. After exposing her position, Xing Jingjing created an illusion that she didn't move while squatting down to avoid Lin Kei's meteorite fall. Then she took advantage of the opportunity to punch his vital part. Among the various responses to the meteorite fall, this was not a surprising move. It had been summarized many times by predecessors. Otherwise, Lin Kei wouldn't have pressed his right hand on his abdomen when he used this move. It was because he stood on the shoulders of generations of martial arts masters that the top martial arts were the top martial arts. Chapter 384. Bam. Lin Kei's right palm bounced back as soon as it was hit. His arm trembled as he swung forward mechanically, making a beautiful arc to grab the enemy's wrist. Xing Jingjing's attack missed, so she immediately pulled back her fist and rolled to the side, breaking away from contact and avoiding the opponent's grab. Bam! As soon as her body left her original position, Lin Kei's left leg tightened like a whip and kicked the air, brushing past her clothes. If Xing Jingjing's reaction had been slightly slower, she would have been unable to avoid it. Seeing that she was rolling away, Lin Kei remembered the direction of her movement. He bent his spine and shot out like a bolt of lightning. Without hesitation, he started chasing after her, not giving her a chance to stand up again. He knew that the enemy could affect the air, distort the light and create illusions, so he didn't pay much attention to the figure disappearing quickly in front of him. He just followed his initial prediction and rushed toward the location he had determined. This prediction was based on the prediction of the enemy's rolling tendency after the physical contact just now. It was the instinctive grasp of a martial arts master of a battle. Bam! Lin Kei paused and changed yin and yang, turning the kinetic energy into the power of his right leg. He kicked toward an empty spot in front of him, creating a strong wind and a crisp sound. This was where he had predicted Xing Jingjing's location. The wind blew, but Lin Kei's whip kick didn't hit anything except air. His pupils constricted, and he almost doubted his grasp of the enemy's ability. But soon he came back to his senses and understood what was going on. Yes, there was no problem with his prediction of Xing Jingjing's rolling tendency, but was the current location really the location in his mind just now? Xing Jingjing couldn't hide her own movement tendency after the physical contact, but she could distort the light and affect his senses, shifting the landing point to the side. Therefore, it seemed that he was going on the expected route, but in fact, he had unconsciously deviated or shortened it. Of course he missed. At this time, a few meters in front of him, Xing Jingjing's tall and slender figure appeared. With a cold face and cold eyes, she slid forward and punched his lower abdomen with her left fist. Lin Kei's pupils had already returned to normal. He took a deep breath and concentrated all his senses on his lower abdomen. His whole body seemed empty and rotten, losing his sense of existence. Boom! With the eruption of the volcano, his Dan force surged. His right arm swelled and then tightened into a sledgehammer. He slammed it in front of him. Fighting Sect 27 style, meteor burst. Rumble. It was as if a bomb had been detonated between the two of them. White waves visible to the naked eye appeared in the air, rolling in all directions outside of Lin Kei. They tore Xing Jingjing's body to shreds, causing her to quickly disappear. Not only that, but a tall and slender figure suddenly appeared 7 or 8 meters in front of him. It was Xing Jingjing herself. Lin Kei knew very well that his opponent's special ability relied on the medium of air to distort light, sound waves, smells and other things, thereby creating almost realistic illusions. He did not have the ability to compete in this aspect, but he could destroy it. The shockwave from the explosion caused by meteor burst would cause the surrounding air to dance wildly, making it difficult for Xing Jingjing to control, or even make it ineffective. Destruction is always easier than construction. This was the illusion-breaking technique that Lin Kei had prepared. Although it consumed a lot of energy, it was definitely effective. After all, it was the last round, so there was no need to consider anything else. In the rolling airwaves, Lin Kei lowered and swung his waist, withdrawing and releasing his chi and blood, and completed double explosion. Crack. In the cracking sound, he rushed to Xing Jingjing in front of him at a high speed. During the whole process, he did not make any movements, which was very strange. 7 or 8 meters distance for the speed of a dance stage expert was just a blink of an eye. It was too late to describe, but in the blink of an eye, Lin Kei had already approached his opponent. Whoosh! Lin Kei suddenly stopped and stood about 1 meter in front of Xing Jingjing. A sharp, ear-piercing sound of friction burst out, completely breaking the silence just now. Accompanied by this hair-raising sound, his trembling body reversed yin and yang, and his left fist tore through the barrier, fiercely punching out. Boom! Another violent explosion, meteor burst, the 27 style of the fighting sect of 27 style of meteor burst. The airwaves formed and rolled, and Xing Jingjing's body suddenly shook and broke into pieces. Less than 2 meters to the left, a few strands of hair fluttered, and a human figure was quickly outlined. While Lin Kei was rushing towards her, she barely managed to move and create another illusion. But she did not expect Lin Kei to be so cautious. He did not attack directly, but continued to use meteor burst instead. After the punch, Lin Kei once again withdrew his chi and blood, and made triple explosion of the dance stage. Bang! In the airwaves that had not yet subsided, he smoothly channeled all his strength into his right foot, and suddenly stamped on the green tiles, as if he was going to plow the arena directly. Clang. The ground under Xing Jingjing's feet shook violently, and the ground cracked, with debris spurting out. She instantly leaned back and lost her balance. The 16 style of the fighting sect, earth cracking. At this time, Lin Ke used the rebounding force of his foot to close his eyes and slide forward, without external interference, to the expected position. Bang. His right arm shook and his palm quickly reached out, trying to grasp and complete the death calamity combo. Facing such a dangerous situation, Xing Jingjing gave up on controlling her balance, and directly leaned back on the ground. Her right leg turned into a whip, and she took advantage of the momentum to whip up with amazing power. At the same time, she fully unleashed her supernatural ability. Lin Ke's right hand paused and his body trembled slightly. His thigh muscles swelled, and in time he bounced his knee, tightened his foot, and quickly kicked out to block the enemy's whip. Bang! Both legs bounced back, and Lin Ke was about to follow up with another kick to take down his opponent. Suddenly, the hair on his back stood up, and his skin and muscles felt a slight tingling. He sensed the incoming attack. Dozens of centimeters behind him, the figure of Xing Jingjing appeared. Her right hand clenched into a fist, and with a bang she rushed forward and directly hit his back. If it were many dance stage fighters, when they sensed danger through absolute reaction, they would definitely try to defend or dodge first. They would rather miss the opportunity than make a mistake. But Lin Ke did not do so. His expression did not change, and his eyes were still deep and restrained. He fully believed in his own judgment. His right foot followed up, and fiercely kicked at Xing Jingjing's body that had already fallen to the ground. Bang! Xing Jingjing barely raised her arm to block the kick, but the kick sent her rolling backward, completely losing her ability to defend and react. At this moment, the Xing Jingjing behind Lin Ke also hit him in the back. A force was generated, pushing him forward, and he was about to fall down. This was not a drill. It was not fake. To be precise, it was not real fake. In the past 6 months, Xing Jingjing's supernatural ability had improved again. She could condense the air and create a slight explosion. Combined with the illusion, she had the ability to clone herself in the competition. She could create a total of 2 selves, and each shadow could punch the equivalent of an ordinary person's punch. She could pass off the fake as the real and the real as the fake. What was fake was real, what was fake, and what was real was fake. Usually Lin Ke would not pay attention to such an attack. But at this moment, the low kick made him lose his balance. His qi and blood quickly flowed back. His right foot lightly touched the ground, and Lin Ke used force concentration to maintain his body. At this moment, Xing Jingjing was still rolling and could not seize the opportunity to stand up. Bang! Using his Dan force, Lin Ke stepped on the ground and jumped out. However, he did not attack Xing Jingjing, who was rolling. Instead, he moved slightly to the side. Bang! He stretched his body and knocked sideways. Suddenly, a staggering figure was knocked out of the void. It was Xing Jingjing. The moment Lin Ke lost his balance, she created another illusion to cover herself and stood up like a carp. While staggering, Lin Ke took a big step forward. His shoulders exploded, his arms shook, and his palms stopped beside Xing Jingjing's temples. The referee glanced at him and confirmed the authenticity of the illusion. He announced loudly, "Round 4, Lin Ke wins." The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In Huahai's seat, and Chaoyang laughed in a low voice. He looked a little disappointed. Piao Yuan clenched his fist and hit his bald head. Losing to Songqing University meant that they only had one way left, which was to fight with Shanbei, the capital, or Guangnan. In the arena, Xing Jingjing was stunned. She suddenly asked, "How did you find out in the end?" He did not use meteor burst to break the illusion. Lin Ke took back his hands. His deep eyes were not as tense as before. He answered indifferently, "The arena told me." Xing Jingjing could control the air, distort the broadcast, and create illusions. However, the arena was also a medium that was not affected by her. If they were close enough, Lu Qing could hear the sound of his opponent turning over and standing up. He could hear that the rolling figure in front of him was actually weightless. "What is my brother saying? It sounds so cool." After cheering, Xianxia asked excitedly, "Sister Jingjing actually took the initiative to talk to him. It seems that I need to learn lip reading," Lu Qing joked. Behind him, Li Mao, Sun Jian, and the others had already stood up and high-fived each other to celebrate. Lin Ke was indeed worthy of his name. It seemed that he was going to be exhausted. When he reached his limit, he actually won. Xianxia sighed and complained in a low voice, "I'm so angry. I don't have a chance to fight again." "It's okay. I'll most likely be the last one in the quarterfinals. You go first. Besides, I'm always worried about your fight with Sister Jingjing. Lu Qing comforted his girlfriend with a smile. As long as Xing Jingjing could still fight and use her supernatural ability, she would be a tough opponent for a professional ninth-pin fighter. Xianxia looked around and then leaned close to Lu Qing's ear. She lowered her voice and said shyly, "Qing, I'll tell you a secret." "What secret?" Lu Qing was curious. Xianxia bit her lower lip and turned her head to the side. She said in a low voice, "I told you that Sister Jingjing's supernatural ability came from fear. That's true. But I said that she would feel safe facing me and couldn't use her supernatural ability to its full potential. That's just my guess. That's the reason I gave myself. Sister Jingjing might have mastered her supernatural ability since she had it for so many years." Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh. He felt that Ku was so cute and adorable that he wanted to kiss her. So he leaned over and whispered, "I'm sorry. Ku, I'll also tell you a secret." "What is it?" Xianxia opened her eyes wide and showed curiosity. Lu Qing chuckled. "I want to kiss you now." Chapter 385. Hearing this secret from her boyfriend, Xianxia was obviously stunned for a moment. Then she squinted her eyes at him, feeling both angry and amused. She mouthed, "Hooligan. Why is Qing flirting all of a sudden? It's so embarrassing to do that in front of so many people. Could it be that it was just like what was written in the books, that men would become more excited after a fierce fight, and their hormones would also increase?" While Xianxia was seriously thinking about the academic problem, Lu Qing added with a smile, "I'm so attracted by the little fairy who is giving me courage. I want to kiss you so much." Oh. Xianxia suddenly understood. She felt shy and happy. She glanced at him and said with a smile, "Then you can think about it." "Just think about it?" Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. He almost couldn't help but steal a kiss. However, when he quickly looked around, he found that all the cameras were aimed at him. They were taking pictures of the winner, so he had to force himself to hold back. In the seats of the martial arts club of Huahai University, and Chaoyang looked at the depressed Piao Yuan and the others and then looked at Xing Jingjing who was walking back with her head down. He sighed and clapped his hands. He forced a smile and said, "Why do you look like we've been eliminated? Losing to Songqing University is not the end of the world. We still have a chance. What if we get Guangnan in the quarterfinals? We have a 1/3 chance to get them. Besides, even if we get Shanbei or the capital, we are not doomed to lose. There is still some hope. Anyway, we have no other choice. We have to fight with our backs to the wall and burn our boats." Hearing Senior An's words and thinking that he would leave the martial arts club after this year's competition, Piao Yuan, Zhang Dongliang and the others were excited again. After they looked at each other, they shouted in unison, "Let's go! Fight with our backs to the wall." Xing Jingjing stood a little further away and didn't shout so fiercely. But her eyes were obviously shaking and her fists were clenched. In the live broadcast room, the host Lu Chang said with emotion, "Congratulations to Songqing University for making it to the quarterfinals. I also wish Huahai University a bloody road and go further. This is martial arts. Everyone is growing. No one will be treated with respect just because they won the championship." Qin Sanxing also sighed. "I didn't expect in Chaoyang to say goodbye to this competition and the martial arts circle in this way." Lu Chang was surprised. "You can't say that. What if Huahai gets Guangnan? They still have a chance. I believe that even if they get Shanbei or the capital, I believe they still have a chance. But what will happen after that? Will they have more injuries? How much will they consume? How much will they be able to recover in the semifinals?" Qin Sanxing said. "It?" Hearing this, Qin Sanxing smiled bitterly. "I want to tell you the truth. Although this may hurt the feelings of the students of Huahai, the truth is the truth. Huahai has done a good job in building the echelon. Strong martial artists have appeared one after another. However, there is a saying that goes, born at the wrong time. Peng Liyun and Ren Li are only juniors. Lu Qing and Lin Ke are only sophomores. For Piao Yuan, Xing Jingjing and Zhang Dongliang, they were born at the wrong time. If it were a few years ago or a few years later, they would have enough strength and qualifications to become shining stars in the martial arts circle in the university. But in recent years, the 9 sons have been competing with each other. There is no room for them to shine." Lu Chang sighed. "This reminds me of a saying. Forget it. I won't say it. Of course, one's destiny depended on one's own efforts. However, one also had to consider the course of history. Piao Yuan and Xing Jingjing had encountered a very good but also very cruel era. Fortunately, There were people to compare with, to be role models, to pass on their experiences and to sharpen their skills. The university martial arts circle was on the rise. Many martial artists who originally had no hope of entering the professional competition were stimulated and gained a lot. They improved by more than one step and thus changed their fate. The cruel thing was that they were always a foil. Well, no matter what, I wish Fu and Chaiyang the best. I wish him to create more glory on the road of life, Qin Sanxing said sincerely. Qin Sanxing said sincerely, and the combination of Lu Cheng and Lin Ke has fully demonstrated their strength. They are the real favorites to win the championship, the third favorite after Shanbei in the capital. Lu Chang chuckled and said, I can't wait to know the situation of the draw for the top 8. That would determine the matchups of the semi-finals. Just thinking about it made one's blood boil. We have to wait for 2 days. Anyway, congratulations to Songqing University for being the first in the group and entering the top 8. Qin Sanxing clenched his fist and waved. And Lu Cheng deserves the title of Heavenly Son. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling posted a celebratory post. The battle of writing the fame. Before she could get to the sofa, Brahmin sent a firecracker emoji. Win. Can't you post more thoughts? All the good names are taken by dogs, replied with the same emoji. Win. Double. At upstairs, I've helped you press the coffin of your math teacher, Unparalleled Dragon King joked. Yan Shaoling made a cough emoji. Quiet. Everyone quiet down. Those who drive cars and dance, calm down. Let's ask the frontline cat reporter Little Gao to send a first-hand report. Oh, I'm so excited that I'm hungry. I have to think carefully about what to eat in the dormitory. Don't you know how to order takeout? Road to the arena asked in surprise. I have to go get takeout. Yan Shaoling expressed that she was lazy. I don't understand teenage girls like you. Road to the arena sent a sigh emoji. At this time, many cats posted a post. Lu Cheng and Lin Ke just finished the post-match interview and went into the bathroom to take a shower. Along with the shower, a song floated out. The mountain road here has 18 bends. I'll tell you who sang it. I'll keep it a secret for Lu Cheng, who doesn't want to reveal his real name. Otherwise he'll be beaten up. In the previous interview, Lin Ke only used 3 words to answer all the questions. Yes, no, that's a new record. To be honest, I really miss his interaction with reporter Shu. Coach Shu is on the phone with someone. He's beaming with joy and holding his head high. Senior Yen is playing with her phone with a beautiful smile. Maybe she's peeking at you guys. She has a special ointment beside her. She's waiting for Lu Cheng to come out and show off his love. Don't ask why cats have dog eyes. Senior Sun Jian and Senior Li Mao are excitedly discussing the possible opponents for the quarterfinals, who will be on the field, and how to use the broadcasting bonus. The National University Martial Arts competition attracted a lot of attention. The copyright fee was more than the professional preliminaries. The teams that didn't make it to the quarterfinals would be able to cover their expenses such as air tickets, accommodation, and food. Once they made it to the quarterfinals, they would get more money. As for how much they would get, it would depend on their final ranking. After talking about them, what about you? Asked Unparalleled Dragon King with a snicker emoji. Many cats replied, blushing expression, I'm organizing my shopping cart. I'm just waiting for the money. After the competition, in order to celebrate the first place in the group and to prepare for the quarterfinals, Geezer sure waved his hand and announced that tomorrow was a holiday. Everyone could relax. Tonight they would eat crayfish for supper. After eating and drinking, it was almost 10:30 p.m. Lu Cheng stood at the door of Yanjika's room and said goodnight to her. The short noise from before was still echoing in the hallway. Talker didn't come up? Yanjika asked casually, as if she didn't want to go back to her room. His girlfriend is coming to visit. He has to kneel at the door and wait. Lu Cheng teased little Ming. After chatting for a while, Yanjika looked at her watch and smiled. Why aren't you sleeping? The effect of sedative fluid is not as good as deep sleep. Okay. Lu Cheng rubbed his swollen temples. Seeing other people passing by in the hallway, he calmed down and waved goodbye. When he was about to turn around, he saw Yanjika turn her head and look to the side. She said in a very low voice, Didn't you say you want to kiss me? Chapter 386. When Huahai was selected, the match between Guangnan and Juku was also confirmed. Netizens who were watching the live broadcast commented on it, either on the bullet screen or on Weibo. I feel that Shanbei is at an advantage. Yeah, no matter who wins between Capital and Songqing University, they must have fought to the limit. Not to mention whether anyone is injured, the fatigue caused by it can't be recovered in 2 or 3 days. Don't say that. Capital and Songqing University are only facing each other. The other opponents are not too strong. Shanbei is going to fight Huahai and Guangnan in a row. It's hard to say whose match schedule is better. I'm looking forward to the match between Shanbei and Huahai. Peng Liyun didn't fight seriously in the previous matches. This time we can finally know what level he is at. If they want to skip the quarterfinals, I want to see Rin Li and Lu Cheng. In the chaos, the odds of the lottery company changed. Shanbei's odds were lower, indicating that people were more optimistic about them. Capital and Songqing University's odds were higher, but they were still lower than Guangnan's. Huahai's odds had skyrocketed, and they were no longer the favorite to win the championship. Everyone's expectations and predictions could be seen from a narrow view of the Big Leopard. At 10:20 that night, Lu Qing watched the recent matches of Jinfeng University Martial Arts Club in Yanjika's room and browsed through the latest comments and analysis. Then he was driven out by the girl and went back to his room. After washing up and lying on the bed, Lu Qing tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. He felt empty, lonely, and cold. Ever since they had a breakthrough in their relationship that day, he wanted to control himself so that he wouldn't affect Ku's state of mind. He didn't want their relationship to be exposed and she would be pointed at behind her back. But every night he couldn't help but stay behind. Sometimes when there was no one in the corridor he would sneak away. Then he would inevitably have a good time. He was exceptionally satisfied. Even if he stopped at the last moment, Lu Qing began to doubt his self-control that he was proud of. Why did he insist on getting up at 5:30 every day to do morning exercises, to abstain from smoking and drinking, and to do so many things? Why couldn't he control himself when it came to Little Fairy? Maybe it's because Ku's charm is too great. Maybe it's because I like her too much. Lu Qing's thoughts drifted, and a smile unconsciously appeared on his face. Thinking back, apart from the experience of reading books and watching movies, the first time he experienced something substantial between a man and a woman, the one that left the deepest impression on him, the one that made him crazy with excitement, was actually related to Ku. Because of this, she left a mark in his heart, in his bones, one after another, gradually increasing. People always say that the first time is unforgettable and unforgettable, but I have experienced too many firsts with Ku. Overwhelmed with emotions, Lu Qing abruptly picked up his phone and sent a message to Yanjika. I'm thinking that my first love is you. How nice. Yanjika didn't need to get up early at 5:30. She was browsing the forum on her phone when she suddenly saw the message. She couldn't help but purse her lips. She was surprised, happy, and a little smug. She typed quickly and replied to Lu Cheng's message. It's already past time. Why aren't you sleeping? Humph, don't think that you can make me dizzy just because you suddenly say some words of love. I can't sleep without my little fairy hugging me. Lu Cheng pretended to be pitiful and said. Yanjika was annoyed but smiled. She gritted her teeth and sent a message. Conceal your spirit and chi, meditate and sleep deeply. Lu Qing smiled. Just as he was about to reply yes, Coach Yen, he saw the girl's second message coming one after another. Come over, come over. You can't do anything except sleep. Lu Qing opened his mouth slightly. At first he was surprised, then he was pleasantly surprised. He lifted the quilt and directly jumped out of bed. In the girl's room, Yanjika suddenly turned sideways and rubbed her slightly hot face into the pillow. Then she sent the third message that she had just typed. She sent an upright and handsome expression of a mythical beast, and said, Sister is pitying you. Sister is so nice. Lu Qing replied shamelessly. He took the martial arts suit for tomorrow morning and opened the door. After looking around, he slipped to the girl's room. Instead of knocking, he sent a message saying, I'm here. That night, Lu Qing controlled himself. He hugged Yanjika and whispered sweet nothings to her for a while before falling asleep. Yanjika, on the other hand, was new to human affairs. She preferred this kind of intimacy over physical contact. The next morning, before dawn, Lu Qing woke up on time and found that Ku was using him as a pillow. Not only was she hugging him tightly, but she also put one of her legs across and pressed on him. Her body temperature was touching, her skin was delicate, and her fragrance was tempting. Lu Qing took a full 3 minutes to gather the will to get up. He gently removed the girl's leg and broke free from her hug. He quietly climbed up, not wanting to wake her up. However, Yanjika, who had lost the warm and reliable embrace, still woke up in a daze. She blinked her black, long and thick eyelashes and looked at her boyfriend with slightly unfocused and innocent eyes. The faint light from outside the window dyed her with the glow of dawn. Everything was like a classic black and white photo. Lu Qing memorized this scene in his mind. He bent down and kissed the girl's slightly pouty lips. Her warm and sweet breath assailed his nostrils as her soft and smooth tongue entered his mouth. He enjoyed his girlfriend's initiative. After a while, xianxia shrank back and separated their lips. Her eyes were still blurred as she encouraged him casually, "Don't worry about me. Practice well. Make money to support the family." Lu Qing laughed and kissed the girl's forehead again. He said in a low voice, "Okay." After changing his clothes, Lu Qing opened the door and walked out. When he walked in the empty corridor, the scene just now flashed in his mind and he couldn't help but laugh again. Make money to support the family. He murmured this sentence with a gentle and bright smile on his face. His footwork became firmer and firmer as he walked from the darkness to the sunrise. After 2 days at 7 o'clock in the evening of the third day, the martial arts arena of the capital city was packed again. The quarter-finals of the National University Martial Arts competitions were about to begin. Today there were 2 matches in the first half. Lu Qing and the others had already arrived by bus. They even met the students of the capital college at the side entrance. They saw Rinli and Chindigua. They didn't talk to each other and just nodded at each other from a distance. Every time I see Rinli, I feel incredible. How can such a doll-like girl be so powerful? Xianxia didn't hide her feelings. Rinli's appearance was delicate with big eyes, long straight hair and long straight hair. As the saying goes, you can't judge a book by its cover. And the more beautiful something is, the more dangerous it is. I remember there was a very beautiful jellyfish or something. It was super poisonous. Lu Qing said casually. Before his voice died away, he suddenly felt something was wrong. He felt little Ming's teasing gaze. He hurried to whisper in his girlfriend's ear, "Except for little fairy." Seeing Xianxia didn't believe him, he changed his excuse. "Besides, I have the strength of professional sixth pin, but you are still the head of our family. This means you are more powerful than me." He deliberately emphasized the words, "our family." Xianxia snorted with a slight smile in her eyes. She didn't want to talk about it and changed the topic. "The substitutes of the capital college are very strong, even stronger than Shanbei. Yeah, if Peng Liyun wasn't so strong, the capital college would have won at least 1 championship in the past 2 years. Lu Qing echoed. Rin Li, the leading member of the martial arts club of the capital college, was a heavenly son on par with Peng Liyun. Chindigua, a senior, was a real professional 7th pin. Jiang Kongchan, a sophomore, had stepped into the dance stage after the new year. Xinyu, a junior, was considered very likely to succeed Chindigua and become the 2nd leading member. However, he had a tragic car accident at the beginning of last year. His brain was injured and his vision in his left eye was damaged, so he couldn't make a breakthrough until today. He was still a top professional 9th pin fighter, so he had to focus on the martial arts club and the unreliable president, Rinli. In addition, Jiang Jingfeng, a senior, was also a professional 8th pin in the dance stage. While talking, the members of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club entered the locker room to prepare for the next match. According to the order of the draw, the first match was between Songqing University and Jinfeng. Although Jinfeng entered the national competition as the first place in their division, they were weaker than Hudong. The 4th-year leading member, Wei Rong, was only at the level of a weak 7th rank. The other leading member, the 3rd-year Gao Xingli, was only at the level of a professional 8th pin. However, he practiced the Iron Mantle type of martial arts, so his combat strength was not bad and could be considered a strong 8th pin. Their other leading member was the top professional 9th pin Lu Chunlai. Therefore, no matter how one compared them, Jinfeng was not a match for the combination of Yuji and Han Peipai. Gizershur looked around and suddenly said, "Boy Lin, take a break for this match." What? Lu Qing and the others were surprised. Although Jinfeng was not strong, they didn't need to be so careless. What if they failed? Before Lin K could object, Gizershur added, "The following matches are relatively tight. You can only take a break for the next match in the capital college in the best condition. As for Jinfeng, that brat can defeat 3 Hudong fighters at the same time. Why would he be afraid of this? If he dares to lose, you can go back and talk to him. Well, the schedule is tight and fatigue will accumulate. But the problem is that I have the Xia formula. The Xia formula can help my brother-in-law recover in seconds." Lu Qing was more and more confused. "My master is very clear about this. Well, is he putting up a smokescreen? With this break and the fierce battle with the capital college, Shanbei will naturally infer that my brother-in-law can't participate in the final match in the best condition. In fact, this is not the case. The capital college hasn't even fought yet, and my master is already planning for the final match?" Lu Qing vaguely understood. He glanced at Xianxia and found that she was thinking about something while Lin Ke remained silent. Geezer sure saw this and said with a smile, Jin Feng won't have any hope of defeating us. They will try to let their leading members play more matches. We will do the same. Brat, you take the field. Kai Zhongming, you go first, Li Mao second. Me? Little Ming pointed at himself in surprise and joy. Chapter 387. Faced with Kai Zhongming's overjoyed question, Geezer sure nodded slightly and said, experience it well. Okay. Little Ming almost burst into tears. After waiting for so long, did he finally have a chance to start the match? According to Coach Shi, Jinfeng's team was probably ranked from weakest to strongest. If he stunned them with his verbal cannon, he might be able to easily defeat Lu Chunlai, who was also a professional 9th pin fighter, and get the first kill. He would show off in front of Fang Yuan. Lu Cheng saw that Xianxia was a little disappointed, so he secretly pulled her hand and said in a low voice, he wants you to prepare for the capital with all your strength. To challenge the capital, it was impossible to rely only on himself and his brother-in-law. The other team member had to fight to the limit to have a chance of winning. And among all the substitutes, Ku was still the strongest. I hope so. Xianxia replied in a low voice. She was looking forward to the semi-finals and envious of Kai Zhongming and Li Mao, who were about to enter the arena. In the locker room of Jinfeng University Martial Arts Club, Wei Rong, the leader with dyed blonde hair, looked at Coach Zheng Fei. Seeing that he didn't say anything, he simply patted the surface of the bench and said to Gao Xingli, Lu Chunlai and the others, everyone is not very confident in this match. Ah, me too. I know my place. Anyone with eyes can see the performance of Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. Since that's the case, let's not think about miracles. Let's just set a small goal. Gao Xingli's skin was dark and his whole body seemed to be made of iron. After hearing Wei Rong's words, he asked doubtfully, what small goal? At this time, Zheng Fei, who had the temperament of a scholar, smiled and said, Songqing University will most likely let one of their substitutes fight first to train and accumulate actual combat experience. Then it will be Lu Cheng. He will try to defeat us in one go and not let Lin Ke fight. He will save his strength to face the capital. Then our small goal is to not let Lu Cheng fight 1 against 3? Gao Xingli asked again. Isn't it easy to not let Lu Cheng fight 1 against 3? Lu Chunlai, who was good at ridiculing, laughed and said, if we lose to Songqing University's substitute, Lu Cheng can only fight 1 against 2. From a logical point of view, there was no problem. After rolling his eyes at Lu Chunlai, Wei Rong took a deep breath and stood up. I hope the 3 of us can defeat Lu Cheng in a tag team battle. The chances are slim, but it's not impossible. Lu Cheng still has to consider the semifinals, so he won't fight too hard. I think he'll quit while he's ahead. Sheng, you fight in the first match. Try to defeat Songqing University's substitute as quickly as possible. Try to maintain your peak condition and challenge Lu Cheng. Use the method of injury for injury to fight against him. Fight against his conservative mentality. Good. Gao Xingli spoke with a faint metallic voice. Wei Rong pointed at himself and said, I'll be the second one to go up, followed by Lu Cheng. Chunlai, you'll be the last one to finish up. I hope you can see some hope of winning. No problem. Lu Chunlai didn't feel any pressure. After the name list was submitted, Jin Feng and the others pushed open the door to the locker room and walked to their seats. Before they could sit down, they heard a burst of noise from all around as if a tide was about to come. Songqing University's group of people came out of the locker room. Wei Rong and Gao Xingli looked at each other. At the same time, they had a deep understanding of what was called unequal treatment. What greeted them just now was only sparse applause and the sound of trumpets. After a short pause, they knew that Songqing University's main roster wasn't Lin Ke's name. Aren't they looking down on us too much? The veins on Wei Rong's forehead throbbed, and his voice involuntarily rose. Songqing University actually let their second leading general go? Were they confident that Lu Cheng could hold back 10,000 people? Yes, he was very powerful. He was almost on par with Ren Li and Peng Liyun. He had a small chance of defeating their own team, but it wasn't a 100% guarantee. They were looking down on us too much. What did they think we were? Fishbelly? The anger of being looked down on emerged in the hearts of everyone in Jinfeng University's martial arts club. After looking at each other, Wei Rong glanced at the waving referee and said to Gao Xingli, how can you bear this? Jinfeng City was the location of the Guanwai League, and the martial arts atmosphere was very strong. Men had the concept of losing but not losing. No. Gao Xingli clenched his teeth and replied. Then go fight. Then go all out. Finish the first 2 as soon as possible. Wei Rong clenched his fist and shook it. Gao Xingli's iron mantle technique was more suitable for bullying the weak. With him as the vanguard, it was just right. In the Songqing University Martial Arts Club's seating area, after Li Xiaowen passed on Jinfeng's roster, Kai Zongming's mouth was half open. He was stunned and subconsciously turned to Gizershi. Didn't you say that Jinfeng would go from weak to strong? What happened to the professional ninth pin Lu Chunlai? What happened to taking the first clear and showing off? Thinking of the Jinfeng video and Gao Xingli's image of a chimpanzee, student Xiaoming couldn't help but shiver. It was as if he had returned to the past, to the bloody history of being ravaged by the former president, Qin Jianghua, another chimpanzee. Gizershi didn't even lift his eyelids. I just said it casually. Do you really need to analyze it seriously to fight Jinfeng? Lu Qing held back his laughter and patted Talker's shoulder. With a solemn expression he said, "My condolences. It's time to go on stage. The referee is signaling." Kai Zongming glanced at the ring and blurted out, "How should we fight?" "Make good use of the conversation time." Lu Qing gave a sincere suggestion. "Knock him out with words and then seize the opportunity?" Student Xiaoming asked thoughtfully. "No, what I mean is, make good use of the conversation time and have some fun. At least you can take advantage of him verbally, right?" Lu Qing chuckled. "For a person like Talker, the more you comfort the more useless it is. Just a few words of sarcasm is enough." Kai Zongming was like a terminally ill person who heard the doctor's advice to eat more good food. His heart went cold and he felt less burdened. He looked at Lu Qing with disdain. "I, Kai Riqian, am going to defy the heavens." "Not bad. You're in a good state." Lu Qing praised. Kai Zongming reached out his right hand and punched everyone one by one. Finally, he punched Lu Qing's shoulder and walked up the stone steps with the attitude of wind blowing and water freezing. He stepped into the ring and stood in the center. He looked at Gao Xingli, whose eyes were filled with anger. His mind raced as he thought of a strategy. The referee waited for the electronic clock to hit the hour. He raised his hand and said, "Conversation time starts now." Kai Zongming glanced at his opponent weakly, and said sincerely, "We're not looking down on Jinfeng. We're just taking a risk to enter the finals." Gao Xingli had never met anyone who used conversation time to explain something like that. He was momentarily stunned and didn't know how to respond. Kai Zongming continued, minding his own business. "Capital is very strong. We have to use every ounce of strength and squeeze every ounce of potential out of them to have a chance of winning. Lin Ke doesn't have abnormal stamina like Lu Qing. He can't be full of energy after a day of rest. So we can only let him rest this round and face Capital in peak condition." "That makes sense." Gao Xingli thought carefully and couldn't help but nod slightly. Kai Zongming maintained a sincere attitude. "We know that Lin Ke resting will make this round uncertain. But in order to win Capital, we can only do this and take a risk. It's not that we're looking down on you guys," he laughed bitterly. "We're walking a tightrope." Seeing him speak so sincerely and politely, and mocking his choice, Gao Xingli's anger was extinguished little by little. He put down his guard and nodded slightly. "If it were us, we'd probably do the same. After all, Lu Qing has the strength to fight 1 against 3. Hearing this, Kai Zongming laughed and said as if he regretted not having met him earlier, "And this is also a chance for us, the substitutes, to see what it's like to be the weak against the strong, to see how powerful the iron shirt of the Dan stage is. Otherwise, if we put Lin Ke in the position of holding the field, there's a big chance that he won't have to compete, right?" This guy's words are very pleasant to hear. Gao Xingli's heart warmed. He looked at Kai Zongming's eyes and said modestly, "It's not as good as Golden Bell cover, Vajra Unbreakable Divine Art, Immortal Flesh, Jade Formula, etc. It's all the same to me. Anyway, they can't break my defense." Kai Zongming seemed to use the conversation time as an opportunity to chat, making Gao Xingli's mood better. In the end, he deliberately looked around and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry. Actually, the coach has another reason for sending me on the field, and that is to polish and train. Why did he choose me and not the other substitutes? Well, you've seen my information in previous fighting videos, right?" "I know some information, but I've only seen 2 videos." Gao Xingli said frankly. "I only officially joined the special training team last February. Before that, I was just fishing in 3 days and drying the net. After many years of martial arts training, I'm still only of amateur 5th pin." Kai Zongming sighed and looked proud. "After 9 months of special training, I reached professional 9th pin from amateur 5th pin. Now look at my chi and blood. I'm strong 9th pin, right?" "Yes, you've only been practicing martial arts for 1 year and 2 months?" Gao Xingli was a little surprised. When he looked at the information, he only paid attention to the opponent's current level and didn't explore the story behind his growth. This kid's talent is not bad. Is this the reason why their coach sent him on the field to polish him? Yes, so I still have some talent. Kai Zongming smiled. This is one of the reasons why our coach thinks highly of me. He glanced at the electronic clock and coughed twice. The other reason is, while Gao Xingli was concentrating on the answer, the referee suddenly raised his right hand and swung it down. Begin. The conversation time was over. What was the other reason? He had a supernatural ability? He had a talent for fighting? Encountering a cliffhanger, Gao Xingli couldn't control his imagination for a moment. At this time, Kai Zongming had already closed his mouth. Using his spine as a bow and his legs as a bowstring, he shot out like lightning. With just a pounce and a step, he was in front of his opponent. Bam! Kai Zongming's shoulders exploded with strength. His right hand stretched out, 5 fingers flicked, and directly grabbed Gao Xingli's eyes. No matter how powerful the iron mantle was, it still had a weak spot. At the same time, he clamped his tailbone, tightened his thighs, and kicked his right leg between his opponent's legs. Up and down kick. At this time, Gao Xingli suddenly realized that Kai Zongming had deliberately stopped there to distract him and create a good opportunity for a sneak attack. His previous sincerity, respect, and politeness were all in act. He only said those words to make her lower her guard. With a boom, Gao Xingli's heart burned with anger. The anger from being deceived, the anger from being treated with kindness, and the anger from being insulted. He actually thought he was a good person. He thought he was sincere and not bad. Gao Xingli fiercely twisted his waist, using his thighs to block his opponent's kick. He lowered his head and aimed his forehead at his opponent's finger. Dong! Kai Zongming kicked his opponent's bulging thighs. It was as if he had kicked an iron plate. His 5 fingers suddenly softened, changing from a grab to a press. After pushing Gao Xingli's forehead, he used the force to rebound and quickly retreated. The angry Gao Xingli didn't even think about it. He gathered his qi and blood, exploded his dantian, and with a crack, fiercely pounced on his opponent. Kai Zongming had just stabilized his footing and had already flicked his spine, forcibly changing his direction. He narrowly avoided his opponent's fierce pounce. Of course, his opponent was still in front of him. When he was on the stage, he had already thought it through. It was impossible for him to win against an 8th pin dan stage martial artist with iron mantle. Therefore, his goal was to exhaust most of his physical strength. In order to achieve this goal, he had to provoke his opponent and not let him have time to calm down. This depended on the design of the dialogue. It just so happens that I'm very good at this. Come hit me. Student Little Ming's thoughts flashed through his mind. Chapter 388. Bam. Just as Kai Zongming dodged the fierce attack, Gao Xingli used the rebounding force to turn around. He twisted his waist and threw out a punch. Although he was angry, he still had the most basic understanding. He could only complete the double explosion. He couldn't do it unless it was the most critical moment. Kai Zongming felt the wind blow as soon as he changed direction. He didn't have time to dodge. His thigh muscles and calves twisted inwards. He twisted his feet horizontally and sent a drilling force to the ground. Crack. The ground sank. Kai Zongming's legs straightened. His waist and back tightened. He suddenly raised his right arm and threw a powerful punch at his opponent's attack. Moving mountain fist. This was a fist technique famous for its strength. Geezer Shi first taught it to Guiqing to complement her innate strength. Unfortunately, after Guiqing mastered it, her strength improved quickly. However, she still couldn't compare to others. She was also attacked by the new members of the martial arts club. She was disheartened and her hopes were dashed. She chose to withdraw from the special training team. She withdrew, but this fist technique was still practiced by everyone. This was because they had almost mastered the 24 blizzard strikes. They had to find something new to make up for their lack of skills. Bang! The two fists, which were known for their strength, collided in mid-air, making a muffled sound. Kai Zongming's realm was lower after all, so he felt like he was being pressed down by Mount Tai. His arm bounced back and his feet took a step back. He had to use this to reduce his strength. Otherwise, his stance would be broken. Crack. Where he landed, a spider web spread out and formed. Good retreat. Gao Xingli gritted his teeth and shouted. In order to seize the opportunity, he didn't have time to stop. He pushed his right foot and leaned to one side. He immediately rushed forward aggressively and exploded the airflow. Facing this, Kai Zongming didn't have his usual slickness. He knew that since ancient times, there was only one way. He quickly gathered his courage and advanced instead of retreating. He just landed on the ground with his right foot. His ankle shook, his leg straightened, and his fascia tightened. He drove his body to one side and rushed forward like lightning. Bang! The two bodies collided in a very short distance. Shoulder to shoulder, arm to arm. Open! Gao Xingli roared. His iron-like muscles swelled and he directly knocked Kai Zongming back. Comparing strength with mine, you are still far from it. Thump! Thump! Although Kai Zongming was retreating, he had neutralized most of his opponent's strength by attacking without dodging. He retreated in an orderly manner. As soon as Gao Xingli succeeded, he immediately slid forward and attacked the enemy continuously. While he was down, he would take his life. Kai Zongming took 2 steps back. Seeing the opponent coming at him, his heart tightened. He couldn't care about anything else. He bent his waist and pulled back his arm, making a backhand flip. Bah! Bah! When he did a backflip, he raised both his feet and kicked the area between the enemy's legs. Gao Xingli was in too much of a hurry, so he didn't have time to change directions. He could only pause to one side, letting the wind blow past his crotch. Then he regained his momentum and closed in on his opponent. Kai Zongming, on the other hand, did a backhand flip to catch the falling bullet. His body shot out horizontally, narrowly avoiding the chain of attacks and once again pulling apart the distance between them. In this exchange, Gao Xingli had many better choices. But in his impatience, the faster he wanted to win, the harder it was for him to win. Student Little Ming, who had dodged a bullet, didn't forget his own expectations. While he was busy, he raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a deep mocking smile. Stupid beyond cure. You've been fooled, haven't you? Seeing Kai Zongming smile from the corner of his eye, Gao Xingli tried to suppress his anger. His mind buzzed and was completely occupied by a red color. I've never seen such a provocative person. Bah! With a crisp shattering sound, Gao Xingli withdrew and released his qi. His 2 thighs suddenly became thick and strong. His whole body was covered with a strong wind. With a whoosh, he was in front of his opponent. In a flash, Kai Zongming slid forward and dodged the front. Bah! Gao Xingli did another force concentration. His qi and blood exploded. His left leg swelled and violently kicked out. Double explosion. Right now, there was only one thought in his mind. If I can't beat you in a few moves, then it's my loss. Gao Xingli's side kick was fast and fierce. Kai Zongming was powerless to dodge. He quickly lowered his center of gravity, shook his arms, and blocked in front of his lower abdomen. Bang! With one kick, under the brute force of the dance stage explosion, Kai Zongming's stance fell apart and his body flew out. Thump thump thump. Without waiting for him to land, Gao Xingli rushed up in a few steps. He swung his shoulders, stretched out his right hand and grabbed his shoulder. He pulled it back and bent his elbow upward. At this moment, the referee extended his palm and blocked his elbow joint. He used his strength to separate the two people. Then he raised his right hand and loudly shouted, "First round, Gao Xingli wins." Hearing this, Gao Xingli was delighted. He felt that he had won back some face. He didn't need many moves to defeat that hateful guy. But after he came to his senses, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Relying on his iron shirt's ability to resist attacks, relying on the various advantages of the dance stage, and not using force concentration, he had a high chance of defeating his opponent. But now, not only did I use the dance stage explosion, I also used double explosion. What was I doing just now? Seeing the change in his expression, Kai Zongming felt a lot better. He felt that although he didn't show off, he had completed his IQ and verbal superiority. He had won in another way. He exhaled, hummed a little song to himself, and was about to turn around and leave the arena. At this time, Gao Xingli, who was in front of him, opened his mouth and asked, "What's the second reason?" Regarding this matter, he had always been brooding. He was eager to know the answer. No matter if the other party was lying to him or if there was a real reason, there had to be an explanation. Otherwise, it would be like a bad ending in a novel or a TV series that was cut in half. Kai Zongming was startled. His eyes flashed a few times. He imitated someone and smiled. "It's a secret. Personal secret, no comment." Gao Xingli glared. If the referee hadn't blocked in front of him, he would have pounced on him. Ah! Kai Zongming laughed secretly. He leisurely walked down the stone steps and returned to the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats. Seeing this, Li Mao stood up abruptly. There was only excitement in his eyes, no sign of nervousness. That was because he had Lu Qing as his solid backing. Suddenly, Geezer Shi tilted his head and reminded him with a smile, "When you enter the arena, you can walk a little slower." Walk a little slower? Shouldn't he enter the arena as soon as possible and not give Gao Xingli more time to recover? Li Mao was puzzled and asked, Why? Think about it yourself. It depends on your understanding. Geezer sure kept him in suspense. Li Mao frowned and walked forward. He forgot to bump fists with Lu Qing and subconsciously followed the coach's instructions and slowed down. When he met Kai Zongming halfway and saw the other party's right hand, he put away his doubts and asked curiously, "What did you just say? Why is Gao Xingli so angry?" Clap. He and Little Ming high-fived. This is not something that can be explained in 2 or 3 sentences. I'll tell you later. Kai Zongming smiled proudly and didn't look depressed. Senior Li Mao, hurry up. He's depressed because of what I said. There's still a lot of anger left. Okay. Li Mao had just answered when he suddenly remembered Geezer Shi's instructions. This was completely opposite to Kai Zongming's suggestion. Walking a little slower is to give Gao Xingli time to calm down? When he's no longer angry and has time, he should reflect on the battle just now, right? After reflecting on it, would he subconsciously make the opposite choice of fighting style? This is very likely. When normal people encounter similar situations, they will most likely do the same. After all, when things reach an extreme, they will only do the opposite. Once bitten, twice shy. What's more, only a few seconds and a little more than a minute have passed. In other words, Gao Xingli will be cautious and conservative. He won't use force concentration again. This is my chance. With a clear mind, Li Mao looked at Gao Xingli in the center of the ring and slowed down again. While waiting, Gao Xingli adjusted his breath and deeply regretted his previous anger. Didn't he say to save Kai Zongming and Li Mao and save most of his energy to wear down Lu Qing? In the end, he actually used up more than half of his dance stage explosion on a nobody. Vaguely, he could imagine Senior Wei's disappointed eyes and Lu Chuanlai's private complaints. He felt bad and decided to make up for it from the second round onwards. I can still beat a professional 9th pin fighter with just Iron Mantle. Kai Zongming returned to his seat with a proud face. He looked at Lu Qing and said, I found that Gao Xingli explodes at the slightest touch. Quick. Hurry up and ask me how I provoked him. How could Lu Qing not understand him? He only laughed and said, I think it's because you're too cheap. You belong to the category of people with negative supernatural abilities. Yeah, you have the aura of I want to beat you up when I see you. Hey, do you know how hard I work? Every time, I have to put in a lot of effort to control the primordial force that wants to beat you up. Kai Zongming looked at him from the corner of his eyes. He was angry and amused at the same time. Next time, let's perform a crosstalk. Chapter 389. Army. The deep voice echoed in Wei Rong's ears. Wei Rong suddenly felt that the surroundings were filled with smoke and the atmosphere was tragic. It was as if he was ambushed from all sides. Moreover, there was a sharp blade on his neck. The sharpness penetrated through his body, causing goosebumps to appear on his skin. Just as he was about to lose his mind, Lu Cheng's qi, blood, spirit, and force reverberated, contracted, and then burst out. Crack. With a quick pounce, he crossed the distance of 7 to 8 meters and arrived in front of Wei Rong. He then raised his arm and made a downward slashing motion. In his mind, there was a surging river that froze everything. Even the waves that contained powerful kinetic energy were frozen in midair. Bam! The thunderclouds shook. Lu Qing threw a punch. Severe warning. Only then did Wei Rong manage to recover from his fear. He saw a fist with white and black colors growing bigger and bigger. It quickly occupied his vision and the whole world in front of him. Not good. He didn't have time to dodge or make a dance stage explosion. He could only pull his fascia and raise his arm to block. Bam! Wei Rong's arms were cold. His mind was frozen and his vision went black. By the time he broke free from his shock and saw another color, thoughts like, I'm done for, and I need to run, sprang up in his mind. However, he realized that Lu Qing had already taken a step back. With his hands behind his back, he looked calmly at the referee. The referee raised his right arm and announced the result. Round 4, Lu Qing wins. Lost? Just like that? Even if he didn't have any hope of defeating Lu Qing, Wei Rong didn't expect to be defeated at the beginning of the match. This was a crushing defeat that he had never experienced before. Even when he fought against an 8th pin fighter of the professional 9th pin, he had never encountered such a thing. His face burned and he wished he could find a crack to hide in. In the battle just now, Lu Qing was like bullying a primary school student. Yes, I am that primary school student. He didn't even have the chance to do anything before he lost. In the live broadcast room, Lu Chang was stunned at first. Then he couldn't help laughing. He glanced at Chen Sanxing and said, How many seconds did it take? Well, not counting the time when Lu Qing stepped back and waited for the referee to announce the result, it was more than 2 seconds, less than 3. Qin Sanxing wanted to laugh but couldn't. He had predicted that Lu Qing would win quickly, but who would have thought that he would be so fast? That was a weak 7th pin fighter. If it was a life-and-death battle, he would lose a life in 2 or 3 seconds. Lu Chang echoed and sighed with emotion. Finally he asked, Wei Rong is not that weak. In terms of cards, he should be able to fight with Lu Qing for more than 10 moves. How could he be defeated so easily? Qin Sanxing thought for a moment. It's a matter of mentality. Let's put it this way. After the first round, Gao Xingli and Wei Rong's mentality will collapse. In the beginning they probably didn't have much hope. In this state they couldn't play to their best level, but they wouldn't be affected by pressure. When they found out that Songqing University didn't put Lin Ke in the lineup, Jin Feng was angry at being looked down upon and wanted to fight. But to fight, they needed Gao Xingli, who was in the starting lineup, to quickly defeat Kai Zongming and Li Mao and try to fight Lu Qing with 3 people. Only then could they see a glimmer of hope. In the end, I'm not a lip-reading expert. I don't know what Kai Zongming said in the first round, but in short, Gao Xingli was enraged. He used all his strength and defeated his opponent in a few moves. It was a refreshing win, but the consumption was definitely beyond his expectations. In the second round he still had some hope. Relying on his iron shirt, he didn't want to use force concentration so easily. Who knew that he would be injured, but he still fought with Li Mao. At that distance, in that kind of situation, even if Gao Xingli had absolute reaction, it was too late. In this match, Gao Xingli underestimated his opponent and was conservative. It's very appropriate to use an idiom to describe it. That is, he didn't know when to advance or retreat, so he lost his level. Lu Chang listened thoughtfully. So, in a martial arts competition, mentality is a very important factor? That's right. Otherwise, why set up a dialogue time? Some martial artists are good at creating momentum and attacking the opponent's mind. They can make the opponent angry, depressed, or scared, and can't perform at least 50 to 60% of their level. Isn't there a saying in the art of war? Also, that couplet also says that those who can attack the heart will be destroyed by turning around. Qin Sanxing smiled and dropped his bag. Gao Xingli was angry in the first round. He made one wrong move and then all the other steps were wrong. In the second round he was at a loss and his mentality completely collapsed. Don't think that he lost the match. In fact, he still has a lot of fighting power. Lu Chang thought for a few seconds and said doubtfully, I'm not surprised that Gao Xingli lost. In the second round he was at a loss and there was obviously a problem. He didn't perform as well as he should have. But what does this have to do with Wei Rong? Once Gao Xingli lost, he wouldn't have any more hope, right? Under such circumstances, his mentality was enough to support him to enjoy the match. Why would he collapse? As long as one was human, there would be times when they didn't perform well, and dance stage experts were no exception. When there was a problem with their mentality, or when they accumulated too much fatigue, similar things could happen. Otherwise, in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament, the top professional 9th pin fighters wouldn't have had to worry about fighting. It's a bit of an exaggeration to say that Wei Rong's mentality collapsed, but he definitely didn't enjoy the match. Qin Sanxing paused and said, It's okay if there's no hope. Once there's hope and then it's destroyed, it's inevitable that people will feel depressed. It's inevitable that they want to leave the situation as soon as possible, so they don't have the will to fight and have a fearful mentality. I've told you before that dance stage experts use willpower to control the spirit and communicate with the core of the body. Willpower can be reflected in the body's momentum. The higher the level, the stronger the willpower and the stronger the momentum. And then there's the confrontation of momentum? Lu Chang was quite familiar with this kind of dance stage general knowledge. Yes, it's not obvious when one is at 7th or 8th pin, but at 6th pin level momentum is enough to affect the opponent's spirit. Do you remember the match between Lu Cheng and Xiaoyang? I was referring to this when I said that they were evenly matched in the fight of momentum. This is also one of the uses of the conversation time. Qin Sanxing explained in detail, once there's a flaw in one's mentality when facing a mighty ones of this level, the opponent will definitely take advantage of it and directly suppress the spirit with momentum. Lu Chang nodded slightly and said, No wonder there's such a thing as psychological trauma. Normal people will be affected by psychological trauma. If a martial artist is suppressed by momentum like this, the result can be imagined. Wei Rong is in a similar situation. His cowardice and lack of fighting spirit were caught by Lu Cheng. Under the pressure of momentum, he immediately lost his composure. After that, the army formula attacked, the dance stage exploded, and the ice sect simplified physical invulnerability control. Once this set of combo moves was used, he could only wait for his head to be harvested. Qin Sanxing glanced at the screen and stopped talking in time. In the seats of the Jinfeng University Martial Arts Club, Lu Chunlai's eyebrows twitched when he saw that Wei Rong, the club president, was defeated in a few seconds. He said to Coach Zheng Fei in embarrassment, "Can I give up?" Before he finished his words, he was immediately stared at by Gao Xingli's bloodshot eyes. I'm just kidding. If you lose in the arena, you're a man. If you give up directly, you're a eunuch." Lu Chunlai laughed dryly and stepped toward the stone steps. For some reason, a strange word flashed in his mind: slaying Hua Xiong with warm wine. Lu Chunlai brushed past Wei Rong, who was hurrying back with his head lowered, and stood in the arena. He was already calm, thinking that every second he could hold on was worth it. If I'm a man, I'll hold on for 100 seconds. He didn't even spare himself when he complained. The referee raised his hand mechanically and waved, "Begin." Lu Chunlai imitated Piao Yuan a few days ago. He swung his waist and back, pushed his feet against the ground and immediately ran to the right, like a rabbit shot by an arrow. However, the force exertion of a body-refining master was not as smooth and fast as a dance stage fighter. There were certain signs before he made a move. Lu Qing, on the other hand, was at the entry level of the ice mirror. He could sense the changes in the opponent's muscles and fascia at close range. After years of experience, he could be considered half an expert in this field. Lu Chunlai hadn't really run, but he had already judged correctly with just one glance. He took half a step forward, slightly bent his body, and flicked his left arm to the right side of the opponent, sending out a fast-moving cold light. Boom. In the strange explosion, Lu Chunlai, who was running to the right, ran right into the white cold light. Ice burning sprang up and covered his body with a layer of sparkling and translucent frost. Lu Qing strode to the ice sculpture. When Lu Chunlai broke free from the ice, he saw Lu Cheng's smiling face and heard the referee's announcement. The 5th round, Lu Qing wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Cheers and trumpets sounded. The audience inexplicably sympathized with the Martial Arts Club of Jinfeng University. I just drank a mouthful of water. Xianxia wrinkled her nose and pursed her lips. She shook her thermos flask at Lu Qing, who was looking at her from the arena. Her smile was like a vine growing in her eyes. In the live broadcast room, Qin Sanxing shook his finger and scolded jokingly, "He's destroying the market. If everyone is like Lu Qing, how can we sell the copyright of the martial arts competition in the future? How can the TV station make money by advertising?" How many seconds did it take this time? Lu Chang laughed. Well, less than 2 seconds. Qin Sanxing decided not to continue this unpleasant topic. Congratulations to Songqing University for being the first to enter the top 4. What awaits them is a tough battle. Then Lu Qing and the others returned to the locker room. Li Mao went to the emergency room with the help of Kai Zhongming. He was told not to do strenuous exercise for 2 weeks. After that, they watched the match between the capital and Guiyang in the locker room. Ren Li, who was in charge of the match, didn't do much. She easily defeated Chen Digua and Jiang Jingfeng, who had slipped through the gate. Lu Qing couldn't accurately judge how much progress she had made in the past year. Kongtong School was established by the Wind Sect and mastered part of the incomplete chapters of the Plague Sect. After the dust settled, the host, Lu Chang, made a conclusion. In this match, Chen Digua and Jiang Jingfeng of the capital were very restrained. When they were tired, they left the arena to save their strength. The 2 top 8 matches in the first half are over. If there is no accident, Songqing University and the capital will meet in the semi-finals. Let's look forward to this match. Let's look forward to the battle between Lu Qing and Ren Li. Chapter 390. In the locker room of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. After watching the match between Capital and Guiyang, Geezer Shi clapped his hands to attract the attention of Lu Qing and the others. He coughed and said, "Don't go out for supper tonight to celebrate the top 4. Go to bed early and train as usual tomorrow. There are only 3 days left until the semi-finals." He smiled and said, "I understand. This old man understands. You guys aren't tired at all. I'm just using this method to make you guys tighten that string of yours. Challenging the Imperial Capital should be like challenging the Imperial Capital. You can't be lax anymore." Hearing Geezer Shi's words, Lu Qing and Xianxia looked at each other, feeling a little nervous and a little excited at the same time, as if a big battle was imminent. "Yes, Master Coach." They answered in unison, their thoughts drifting to that night 2 days later. Whether they would soar to the top or not, they still needed to accumulate experience. It all depended on this battle. On the way back to the hotel on the bus, The topic of their conversation had shifted from the easy victory over Jin Feng and the correct nickname of Talker, to the matters related to the Capital Academy Martial Arts Club. The atmosphere was high. When they were about to get off the bus, Xianxia, who was talking about Renli's martial arts, suddenly covered her mouth and laughed. What's wrong? What's so funny about Renli's martial arts? I thought of an illusion. Xianxia said in a light tone. She jumped off the last step of the bus and jumped to the door of the hotel. What's the story? Lu Qing smiled as he watched the girl's every move. He walked behind her unhurriedly. This caused Kai Zongming to whisper into Li Mao's ear, "Look at Qing, this smile, damn, I can see the hint of a doting smile." Li Mao said enviously, "I also want a girlfriend to give me a doting smile." Hey Talker, don't talk about Qing. Aren't you like this in front of your girlfriend? No, in front of my wife, I smile more humbly. Kai Zongming spread his hands and said, my taste, a mortal like you won't understand. On the other side, Xianxia rolled her eyes and said with a smile, Kongtong School is based on the unique skills of the Wind Sect and has mastered a part of the incomplete chapters of the Plague Sect, right? Yes. Lu Qing answered. Because the martial arts of the Plague Sect were incomplete and lacked the most profound content, the seniors of the Kongtong School tried to incorporate it into the martial arts of the Wind Sect and create Road to the Underworld, a killing move of the Plague Sect for physical invulnerability. As a result, they came up with a bunch of weird martial arts. Hand in hand, Xianxia and Lu Qing walked into the hotel lobby and shared the illusion they knew. How strange. Lu Qing asked with great interest. Well, for example, the seniors of Kongtong School who mastered these weird martial arts were given several interesting nicknames, such as humanoid biochemical weapon, walking gas bomb, forbidden by the Universal Convention, physical invulnerability of mass destruction. Xianxia was more and more amused. The only thing left was our solemn promise not to use the physical invulnerability fighters of Kongtong School first. Lu Qing was dumbfounded. After a long time he said, that's pretty scary. Fortunately, Renli hasn't reached the inhuman stage. Even if she learns these weird martial arts, she won't have any obvious effect. Xianxia smiled, showing her dimples. Silly boy, you don't have to worry about this. Because these weird martial arts are too murderous and can easily hurt innocent people, Kongtong School has been strictly controlling them. They can't be taught to direct disciples and elders who have passed various tests. Even in the top competitions they rarely appear. Otherwise, when I mention those nicknames, I wouldn't have said, interesting, but horrible. They rarely appear in the top competitions. No wonder I don't know. Lu Qing suddenly understood. While talking and laughing, they entered the elevator and came to the floor where the room was. Beep. Xianxia swiped her card and entered the room. When she was about to close the door, she suddenly turned around and looked at Lu Qing with her bright eyes through the gap. She said with a smile, do you want to watch the competition video of the capital together tonight? At this time, such an invitation made Lu Qing's blood boil and rush to his head. He was about to push the door open and hug his little fairy. But when he thought of his master's order and the upcoming war, he hesitated and thought it was better to cultivate his mind and temper and fully prepare for the upcoming war. In the short period of hesitation, he saw a trace of wisdom in Xianxia's eyes and heard her say in a light tone, it seems that you don't want to. Then forget it. Before her voice died away, she had already prepared and closed the door with a bang, leaving a burst of clear and undisguised laughter. She was very proud. All of a sudden, it dawned on Lu Qing that Ku was deliberately teasing him. She knew very well that with his personality, he would definitely consider the war with the capital and his master's advice. He would definitely hesitate. That was why she had never intended to let him into her room from the beginning. You know how to flirt back. You know how to tease me. Lu Qing took out his phone and sent a message with an exclamation mark to express his feelings. Aha. Xianxia replied quickly. She first laughed and then said, I only dare to flirt with you when you don't know how to do anything. Otherwise, how embarrassing. Who said that? Who said, don't you want to kiss me at the door that day? Lu Qing teased. He had understood for a long time that when interacting with girls, you can't just flatter and say sweet words. You have to tease and tease from time to time to be intimate. Forget it. No, I didn't say that. Xianxia replied shyly. It's not easy for me to take the initiative and you dare to laugh at me. Humph, I won't be close to you in the future. Lu Qing knew when to stop. He smiled and said, guess what I'm thinking now? Xianxia replied, thinking that if I flirt with you again next time, you won't care about anything else? Humph, there won't be a next time. No. Lu Qing laughed. I'm considering whether or not to break in. How much would I have to pay the hotel if the door is destroyed without a complete corpse? Not to mention the door, even the wall can't stop me. Xianxia sent an angry emoji and said, "Go back to sleep." Okay. After flirting for a while, Lu Qing went back to his room and washed up. When he lay on the bed, he chatted with Xianxia while browsing the forums and Weibo. From time to time he would chat with Talker and Fatty Jiang. At this time, the official website of the Weibo Lottery Company had announced the latest odds for the final match between Capital and Songqing University. Capital 1-1. 3 including principal. Songqing University 1-1. 5 including principal. The odds for both sides were quite close. Capital was slightly lower, which meant that the public thought they had a higher chance of winning. That's reasonable. Lu Qing glanced over and read the analysis and predictions of the famous martial arts influencers. 3 generations of the Qin family said, Lin Ke is stronger than Qin Digua, while Xianxia is weaker than Jiang Jingfeng or Jiang Kongchan. The final result depends largely on Lin Ke and Ren Li. If Lin Ke wins by 1 or 2 moves and exhausts Qin Digua a little bit, Lin Ke will be able to maintain a decent strength to face Jiang Jingfeng or Jiang Kongchan. Even if he still loses, he can exhaust his opponent to a very tired state, which gives Xianxia a good chance to win. After all, these 2 professional 8th pin fighters are pure fighters without supernatural abilities. If Ren Li wins, Lin Ke will be exhausted in advance. When facing Qin Digua, who is a normal professional 7th pin fighter or even stronger, he may lose if he is careless. Even if he wins, he will be close to his limit. In this case, Jiang Jingfeng or Jiang Kongchan can preserve most of their strength to face Xianxia. If they don't break down and lose their performance, the result will be predictable. So who has a higher chance of winning, Lu Qing or Ren Li? Judging from the strength he has shown so far, Lu Qing has the combat capability of a top 6th pin, while Ren Li hasn't shown her full strength yet. Of course, we all believe that she must have reached the realm of a top 6th pin, or even close to the inhuman stage. From this point of view they are almost the same. But on the other hand, Ren Li knows her enemy well, while Lu Qing knows himself well. Therefore, I am cautiously optimistic that Ren Li will win by a narrow margin and the capital will enter the final again. All-knowing man in Ganghu didn't post a long Weibo this time, but only a short sentence. Probability of winning, Ren Li 60%, Lu Qing 40%, the capital wins. So did superstition is not. He said with conviction, the substitutes of Songqing University are too weak. How can they beat the capital? Good, this toxic healer. Lu Qing laughed. When he was about to click on the comments, Xianxia forwarded an interview video to him. Look, Ren Li's post-match interview. Oh. Lu Qing buffered the data and watched it carefully. In the video, Ren Li stood in front of the reporters like a doll with her hair tied in a half bun. She was of medium height, neither tall nor short. Today we still have 3 questions, but they are not related to this match. The reporter was obviously familiar with Ren Li, so he said with a smile. Okay. Ren Li nodded slightly. First, we are actually very curious. You are not like Peng Liyun, who has an unusual interest in physics. Why do you still want to enter a university instead of accepting the arrangement of Kongtong School and participating in professional competitions step by step? The reporter asked with great interest. Ren Li opened her mouth slightly and said with her eyes looking up, My parents are both professors in the university. If I don't study for an undergraduate degree, I feel that I am illiterate. There will be a generation gap between them. And the more knowledge I have, the more I can comprehend martial arts by analogy. So you are from a scholarly family. The reporter praised. Second question, I heard that you are usually very muddle-headed, especially road blindness. Has it reached the terminal stage of a terminal illness? Ren Li unconsciously pouted her mouth and answered with a slight grievance. They say that I am always in the state of, who am I, where am I, what am I doing? I think so. A person's energy is limited. He can only concentrate on 2 or 3 things. As for the rest, just let it be. Haha, why do I feel that your answer is very weak? The reporter laughed. Third, what do you think of the match between you and Lu Qing? Who has a higher chance of winning? In terms of strength, it's 50-50. Let's see who can perform better on the spot. Ren Li answered sincerely. The reporter shook her head. No, you haven't revealed your trump card in this national competition. Just from this point alone, you have an advantage. Ren Li looked at her helplessly as if to say, Hey, don't expose me. In the video of the interview, the bullet screen was filled with comments such as, Wow, so cute. You're so cute. Ren Li, I'll always support you. Support you. Beat Lu Qing. Lu Qing was annoyed and amused at the same time. He was looking forward to the semifinals. Of course, before that there was one more thing to do. That was to watch the match between Peng Liyun and In Chaoyang and see the true level of the former.